Happy Monday. Welcome to Draglist Live, where we bench race with the world's top drag racers. My name's Bill Pratt. It's great to be with you tonight, and we're so excited to bring you Steve Macklin, a Utah fuel and funny car racer, but that's not all. He's also a racing manufacturer and has raced everything from bobsleds to blown funny cars. We're going to catch up with Steve tonight and then just have a great time. Set your watches, throw them away. We're going to talk all night tonight, I think. Before we bring Steve in, let's go to John. John, how are you doing, sir?
Doing great here, BP, and howdy from Houston, everybody. Please join us on the live chat. I'll take notes and I'll pass your questions and comments along to Bill and Steve.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Folks, click the like, the little thumbs up down there below your screen. Click the share. Let your friends know we have Steve Macklin here live. And let's prove it. Steve Macklin, welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, John, for having me on. And thank you to everybody for taking time to sit and watch and
Oh,
listen.
man. So great to have you on. And I know that our chat line, John's going to be monitoring that, as we said. But, all our folks in the chat are all pretty much racers or editors of something or somehow involved in the biz. So we love it when like a hardcore racer comes on and we can just share, what it's like to be out there because most of them have been out there with you.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, Steve. So, I mean, I sort of want to go through all the things you do. So, and we'll take these one at a time. So let's run through the list real quick. And I'm gonna spit this out and then we'll go back and check each one. But you've raced ATVs, all kinds of drags, ET, alcohol, nitro, nostalgia, funny cars, monster trucks, asphalt modifieds, dirt mini stocks, bobsleds, as I mentioned, sprint cars next spring. I know that'll make Kay happy. And maybe the salt flats for a land speed record. Just tons of stuff. You're also the owner of B&J Racing Transmissions, Performance Bearings, Ceramic Bearings, Boss NOS, nitrous kits for all kinds of applications and you're out there racing and making things happen. So, oh my gosh, how do you keep it all done?
It's a full-time job, 24/7. I'm fortunate to have some good help. I have Corbin and a new kid I just hired, and I have Curtis Terry here. And they take care of the B&J side, and we work on the bearing side together. The nitrous is something new that's coming up in the future for us. So, I was fortunate to buy a good business in B&J. It was established. We've just tried to get more visibility for it, more attention. So that was not having to start from scratch, but we're building some new products and that, so that keeps me busy. I have my two sons that help me race. A good friend of ours, Jerry Osler, who comes along as well. So we go out with the alcohol funny car, and some of the other stuff we're talking about for next spring is I'll probably end up doing that a little bit more myself. But I have. It's like I was saying a few minutes ago with when Bill and I were just talking. It's the people in this whole deal, and whether it's in my business or in my racing, it's the people there that make it the fun. They make it fun. They make it worthwhile, and they give us that support. So we stay very busy doing all the things we're doing for sure.
You're out in Bountiful, Utah, which is a little bit north of Salt Lake City, right? And so do you have opportunities to race all these types of cars or right around there, or do you have to do some traveling?
Well, more recently, we have to do a lot of traveling. I mean, I started back in '78 at a local track, used to be Bonneville Raceway, and then it was
Mhm.
Rocky Mountain Raceway, and that went away in 2018. And that's where I started kind of my love for drag racing when I was a teenager. The the bobsled stuff, I mean, I always watched, remember '76, if you're back that old, Franz Klammer and the run and the downhill and the bobsled because it was
Yeah,
all
sure.
speed. And they built a bobsled track 45 minutes from my house. And I said, man, I'm going to do that. So I had the first bobsled in Utah. I was the first one to go down the track, first Utah
Whoa.
person to have a license. So we did a lot of fun stuff in building it. Even we went to America's Cup, which is like a qualifying version for the Olympic Games. So in
Right.
1998, it was Nagano. We didn't finish well enough to go to the games, of course, but I met Devon Harris, which is the guy from Cool Runnings, if you
No
know that, the
kidding.
Jamaican bobsled team. So, we did that here. ATVs you can race here. I race monster trucks here. So
Hmm.
most of the things, we're able to do here, but now with the drag strip gone, we we've been running the Midwest series. And so it could be 1,200 to 1,500 miles that we travel to go race back there. So,
You West Coast racers are so hardcore. I mean, no matter where you are, you got to travel north and south or east and west, one or the other. And
yeah.
oh my
Well,
goodness.
and when I race monster trucks, I base my truck out of Champaign, Illinois. And
Okay.
so, it was like for how many ever weeks a year, I'd get on a plane at 11:30 at night here, fly to Atlanta, sleep in the airport for 3 hours, get on a plane, fly to Indy, drive 2 hours from Indy to Champaign, get in the truck, drive to an event, drive back, fly them home Sunday, and go back to work. So,
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah, but you got to travel to race. That's something. And oh man, cool
That's for
runnings.
sure.
I guess I'd be the John Candy character. That makes sense. Right?
Yeah.
Well, when did you kind of get the hook to start racing or following cars? I guess the teens, like everybody else.
Yeah, my dad had a lot of cars, but they were all just the ones he drove to work.
Hmm.
And I used to go into high school. I used to drive by a guy's house, good friend of mine. He passed away a few years ago, John Becker, and he uh, he had a '67 Camaro race car and a '69 Z28, all original. Uh, you know, Everything was just beautiful on it. And I used to
Right.
drive up and down because I took the bus to school. So one day I just walked down his driveway and introduced myself and said, "Man, these are cool cars." And started talking, "Hey, we're going to the races on Friday. Do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Okay." I'd never been to a drag race. I was out there, and Jerry Ruth was there. Shirley Muldowney was there. I mean, this is late '70s, early '80s.
Right.
And I saw a nitro funny car for the first time. And I said, one day I'm going to drive those. And I think both of the guys I was with looked at me and said, "Shut up, kid. You'll never drive one of those." And 28 years later, I drove one. But in the meantime, I got a '68 Camaro. It was like an 1180 car when I got it. We finally got it going 1050s, through into about 1992 is kind of when I was racing ATVs, doing desert racing and motocross with that as well. So it just kind of started snowballing and meeting people. And then I got in, asphalt, oval track stuff with a friend of mine from one at Hunter Machine out here. And he taught me all about that. And again, you just keep hearing the names I keep bringing up, and it's the people that
Right.
drug me in. But it really is, that's what's probably kept me here as well, is just the
Right.
people that I've met over the years. So that was the start.
That's fantastic. Yeah, the people are what it's all about, right? It's like a class reunion every time. It's a class reunion of every class that has been at the high school, basically.
Yeah.
You got a lot of friends who are way older, not many these days, but a lot of friends that are younger, and it's awesome. And
Yeah.
racing's the equalizer.
Yeah, I'm finding that most of the people I know now they're not older than I am. So it's getting that way. But and more recently I have people like the Strasburg family, and most people know that name from
Right.
on alcohol, they're on top fuel, and then they do the land speed stuff. And so Mike Strasburg was the previous owner of B&J, and so I've known them now for 25 years. And so they got me into the land speed stuff. I haven't driven anything, but I've helped work on their cars many, many times. And we're looking at maybe giving me a chance to maybe drive next year out on the salt. So that'll be another thing to do. But again,
Yeah.
it's just those people. And I worked on their top fuel car for a number of years when they ran IHRA, and uh, it just kept getting deeper and deeper into it. So
Right. Yeah. It sucks you in, huh?
yeah, yeah, it really did. And I mean, in the drag racing world, just to like focus on it a little bit, I got rid of my Camaro in '92, I think. Sat out for a few years, and then in '99, I met uh, a local guy here from Utah, Robert Schwab. Worked on his team for a while. I bought his one of his old cars, turned it into a Sifka car, 750 class back
Right.
then, and started there, and then raced it for a number of years. And then in 2006, I bought a nitro funny car that had been driven by Dale Poldy. It was the last car that Steve Pluger built.
Oh, that car. I got you.
Yeah, it was the last one. And so when I went down to pick it up, I had a little trailer, and man, he just kept bringing more stuff out and more stuff out and more stuff out. And so I like, man, I don't even know what I'm going to do with all this stuff. And Steve Leach from RCD was a part of that setup as well. So it had every RCD tool and every RCD thing on it. So we came back, and those two guys that told me, "Shut up, kid, you're not going to drive one of those." Their houses were the first two I went to, and I opened the back of the trailer and I said, "Look at that, boys," you know. And
Shut up, man.
yeah, 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 exactly. So and then in '96 or 2006, sorry, I licensed. It was Labor Day weekend. We went down to Vegas. I have a think a 24-foot trailer behind me and another truck with a 24-foot trailer behind it. And I pull into
Mhm.
Vegas, and it was one of the all Mopar events or whatever. But it was a
Right.
3-day deal, and so I pulled in and I told the guy, I said, "We're here, with the Nitro Funny Car. Where do you want us to park?" And he says, "Well, why don't you pull over there and wait for the rig to come?" I said, "There's no rig." And he goes, "Well, where's the car?" I said, "In the trailer behind me." "Well, where's all your stuff?" "In the trailer behind it." He's like shaking his head. You think, "Oh, who's this clown?" I mean, just I wasn't professional.
Yeah.
But we set up a tent and 10 by 12, two 10 by 10 tents next to my 24-foot trailer. We brought in Terry Manzer, who
Yeah.
came back from he worked back in with Prim and
Good
Ron
tuner. Good
Capps.
tuner. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible guy. He could take whatever pile of junk you had and make it run well, and not.
Nice.
So over the course of 3 days, we made 9 runs, and I had my license, and that's pretty unheard of, I think, anymore. To get a little team to get it that quick. And
Yeah.
I just remember we pulled in one story. We pulled into the staging lanes, going to make my last run. I needed to make one more full run. All of a sudden, all the lights went out.
Oh no.
And down the strip, the track, they were done. It was like midnight on Monday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, all we need is one more run. So I went up to the tower and went up down to the start line, talking to people. And finally, the lights came back on, and they
Oh,
let me
nice.
make that final run. And we went 519 at 297,
Wow.
and got our license or whatever. And
That might be the quickest that car ever went. I can't
yeah,
remember.
I don't know. That's one thing I don't know is how fast it went. But we went 597 at 290 or 519 at 297 with a rookie driving it. I had 9 passes under my belt in a nitro car, and and then we went on through the 2007. We did a couple of that was back when NHRA was changing the tire compound, and they were
Right.
having tires coming apart. So
Yeah.
the new tire came out. So another story for this one is we didn't our body was the older Camaro, like a 2000 Camaro, and they wouldn't allow it in the NHRA. So I had to
Oh,
find a newer body. So I went down, I called and got a hold of Grant Downing, who was working for um, Checker Shucks and Cragen
right.
team, and Dale Wortham. And I said, "Man, I need a body." And he said, "We have one." So I went down there. By the time I got there, they had sold it.
Oh no.
He says, "Well, I've got these two bodies over here, and one of them was the CSK car that, uh, oh, I just lost his name. He drives for the Dream Team, follow a Dream car. Oh man,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
The
Anyhow,
Homecoming.
yeah, he the one where he blew up the tire and it blew the back half of the body off. So I bought that body and part of another body, and then came home and put them in together in to make one body. It was the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life, because I body work no is not my cup of tea. So then we took it and went up to Edmonton for one of the IHR races up there. And I'll try to keep this a little short, but we
No,
ran
go for it.
well. And I remember the announcer going, "Yeah, we got Steve Macklin up here against Jack Wyatt, and Jack Wyatt has the House of Color car. Look how beautiful that is," and whatever. And he goes, "I think Steve could take a couple of notes on the car. And then we went out and we smoked him. And the announcer came back and said, "Oh, I guess the paint job doesn't make any difference." Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of stories like that going up there, and we ran it through 2008. Started off the win. with a win in San Antonio at the first race in April. Prior to that, I'll tell you, we were all standing around. This goes back to Vegas, and when we were taking down, testing the new tire, had to get the new body, and we're all standing around. And they go, "Well, who wants to race the new guy?" And qualifying, and Densham speaks up. I'll run him. So that's how I met Gary Densham for the first time.
Yeah,
But a lot of little things like that. We went through the IHRA, and then the IHRA went away, and we couldn't compete in the big show, with the NHRA guys or whatever. So we sold it and sat for a while. But we did get an Ironman uh, in the
that's
first,
fantastic.
yeah, which is great. We never thought we were going to make that one. It was snowing here. We had to go to Casper, Wyoming, which is, if you look on a map, that's north from us
Woo.
to get down to San Antonio.
What, the flight? That's
No,
ridiculous.
no, driving the rig
Oh,
because those were all closed. And
oh my goodness,
we drove
still.
up to Casper and then all the way down, stopped at Terry Haddock's shop in Texas because we bought a carbon Monte Carlo body from him. We mounted that on the car in a windstorm in his parking lot.
Wow.
Continued on one exit away from the San Antonio track. We lost a piston in the rig. So we idled off the road there. The Strasburgs were already at the race. They unhooked their rig, came and hooked on our trailer, drug us into the track. When we got there, it looked like their trailer was down in the front. The landing gear had sunk into the asphalt because
Oh
they had just
no.
put new asphalt. So we had to raise that up. I mean, it just kept going, that race that we won. And so I think that's proof where when you have a lot of trouble, it's going to be a good race. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I've always held that. But yeah, yeah, I mean, that was kind of our nitro, and we raced more towards the end of 2008. I think we went to 5 events. We were in the points lead for a while. Then my mom was diagnosed with cancer,
Hmm.
and I came home, and we didn't go back out after that. So,
Wow. Well, you made your impact. That's amazing. We were chatting before the show that I was sharing with Steve that, now that IHRA is back and running eighth mile, I was looking at the eighth mile top fuel and funny car all-time quickest, and a lot of those are still from that 2008 season, and we're only now starting with Rob McCabe out there working hard, starting to stick the eighth mile times back in the fuel list. So welcome back, IHRA.
yeah,
So,
exactly. I'm happy to see that.
Steve, you want to go to John and see who's out there on the chat line tonight? What's happening, John?
There may be
Okay.
nobody because it's
How
me
about
online.
we're here from coast to coast tonight, and we have a very talkative chat board. Rob McCabe is with us tonight, and he says good evening to everybody. Randy Johnston in Northern California says good evening. Pete Mariello in Los Angeles says hello there, everyone. Rich Panicaro in New Jersey says hello to everybody. Rob McCabe's bobsled is always one of the sports I watch in the winter games.
Yeah, that's how I started.
He's right, man. That is an awesome sport,
Drag
no doubt
racing
about
by
it.
in another way, isn't it? It's just
Yeah,
running the ET.
yeah. And Jim Sanders in St. Louis is with us. He says, "What up, crew?" And he also said that now. See, we have this situation here tonight where the little A icon, the at icon, is in front of everybody's name.
Uh-huh.
No, we've never had that before, so we're going, well,
Interesting.
what's up with that? But Jim said, I used to be somewhere. I used to be at somewhere, but I forget.
Now Jim is Kurt Wasson's nephew. Do you remember the superstitious fuel funny car Chevy powered back? That's so
Part of it.
all our guys got somebody connected to somebody.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Jim is a great guy, and he's got his own shop. It's two old guys with reading glasses, and they restore semi-totaled cars and sell them off, and they make a good profit. They're doing really well, and we're glad you're with us tonight, Jim. And Ford Purley in Michigan says he loves to hear these stories. It never gets old. He said, Steve, thank you for sharing them. And I agree. Great stories. Rodney Potter is here with us from New York. He's a former racer of the week, a gas racer. And Randy Johnston had a question. He asked, is there anything in the works to get a track open in Salt Lake City area? So much empty land west of town away from that would work well. And
Yeah,
I told him, you know, I would recommend that to IHRA or an independent investor, but I don't know anything. So that's the question for you, Steve.
well, actually going back to 95, 96, we tried to build another track here. I don't have the money. I just tried to put it all together. And you back 30 years ago, you looked at the land that was around the valley and there was a bunch of farm property, but everybody knew what was going to happen, and now it's all houses. And so one of the things that happens here in Utah is getting a piece of property. We were spoiled. Well, Utah has been spoiled since the late 50s, I believe, when there was two tracks. They were in a similar area, 58, I think. And then when Bonneville was there, and it was there from the early 60s until 2018 under a different name. But we tried to lease that track in 1995, I believe it was, from the guy that owned it. And he had bought it and had it for a few years or whatever. And we got all the way to where we were sitting down at the picnic table just outside of the tower by the fast food or by the concession stand. And he changed his mind and didn't want to do it. And we were
Oh my
just going to
gosh.
lease it for a year so we could learn more about how to operate it. Well, during that time, I had gone down south into the Provo-Orem area and even further south, gone out west, which this gentleman's talking about. And there is a ton of property west of Utah out in what's called Tooele County. And but they don't want us out there. When I went back in 95, 96 and went in front of the planning commission and told them the story, I was called every name in the book by the people out there. And
Really?
yeah, it's kind of one of those communities that everybody wants to move out there, but they want to shut the door and have nobody else move out there. And so we got involved with a gentleman who was involved with Larry Miller. And Larry Miller was the owner of the Utah Jazz and owner of a lot of car dealerships, and he had a lot of pull. He was a drag racer from the very beginning, but got into road racing. And Scott Mabey was the guy's name that we dealt with, and he had Sahara Construction. We did all the plans, did all the work. We finally got a permit out in the Tooele County area in 96. And but it was way out west to another mountain range. And if you went out there, there was a dynamite plant and another plant that was out there. Well, what was left of the dynamite plant? The story is they had a small mishap and
Oh my
leveled the
gosh.
place. But the mosquitoes and the bugs out there they were like pterodactyls. You know what I mean?
Really?
Oh yeah, it was terrible. So we thought, man, there's no way anybody's going to come out this far, and the county wouldn't support any sort of fogging or whatever to get rid of them. And then it ended up just falling apart because the facility was going to be a 10 or 11, $12 million facility, and I didn't have the money, and we just couldn't put it together. So that kind of died. But then years later, Larry Miller was able to get a permit. Well, he had a lot more pull and a lot more cash. He got a permit, and now there's a facility out there now called, it just changed names to Burt Brothers Motorsports Park, but it was Utah Motorsports Campus. And he built, from what I heard, $80+ million. It's a road course.
Wow.
And there's a go-kart track. In fact, I was just out there yesterday racing with my son. My son Ryan races go-karts out there, and he kicked people's butts sometimes. And, but it's a beautiful facility. And I think if somebody walked in and had the money to lay down on a trip, they would find a piece of property for it.
Right.
But it ended up the Miller family, when Larry passed away, the dad, the kids got that, and they just didn't have any interest. So the land was leased, and that
Right.
property, so they ended up just giving the facility back to the county. Well, the county sold it to the second highest bidder, got in trouble with the first highest bidder, so it sat for a while. But a Chinese company owns it now called My Time. And
Hmm.
they were supposed to be buying it so they could train people in that facility because they wanted to build motorsports parks in China.
Hmm.
That's the story. I don't know all the ins and outs, but there is a place there. So to answer the gentleman's question, yeah, there's a ton of property out there. The infrastructure isn't that great. And one of the things that I find in Utah is everybody complains that if they've got to drive more than 20 minutes to go
Yeah.
racing. You know, I see that because every once in a while somebody will post a picture from the old Bonneville, the old Armar. Why don't we have a track? Whatever. And I just don't know that it'll ever happen. And the financial side of it, as you I'm sure know, and a lot of the people know, it's expensive to build it, and there may not be enough return on investment to get
Yeah.
it. So for somebody that had a lot of money that wanted to have a play toy, I think that's how it would happen. But I don't know if it's going to be a sound business decision for anybody to do it. So
Yeah, that's fascinating. That was my question. I mean, when you mentioned mosquitoes, I'm wondering what were there any trees or anything out there or
no,
any
no,
water?
I mean we live in a high desert. It's sagebrush
Yeah,
and that. So it would have been built out in the middle of nowhere,
wow,
and I mean, it really isn't that far. I mean, it may be at a max an hour from most of the people in the Salt Lake Valley,
right.
but there were no hotels out there. But again, for a Salt Lake person to drive an hour, race, and drive home,
Yeah.
that's an easy deal.
I used to do that in northeastern Ohio. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
The last
wow.
time I drove home a race, it was 24 hours from Indianapolis, Indiana. So, I understand that, but I'd love to have a track locally. There is a small 8 mile track up in Vernal, Utah, which is a couple of hours from here. And Bo Ellis is a guy that lives up there that put that all together with the county. So there is a facility there, 8 Mile, but a lot of people won't go up there and race. Some people complain that the guardrails aren't safe. You hear a bunch of things. Everybody has an excuse or
Yeah,
whatever,
Mhm.
but I don't know. So we go to Our closest track is Vegas,
got it, got it. Well,
or
John,
actually
who else?
Boise.
Yeah, Randy had suggested an 8th mile track while we were just discussing this, so that's good to know.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
mean, from an 8 mile standpoint, I've looked at the cost, and to do an 8 mile and do it NHRA with 34-inch walls and 37, I mean, making it right, it's going to be $3 million plus the land bare minimum just to do without a lot of parking
That's
on
right.
lots, whatever,
Hmm.
just to do the asphalt, and it probably be more than that now. So,
Yeah.
'cause I'm not a construction person, so
Got to have gamblers, high
yeah.
rollers.
Yeah. And the hard part is if you don't build a quality facility, people won't come anyhow.
Right.
The caliber of vehicles that people are racing now has
Yeah.
just far surpassed anything that like I raced back when I was in the
Yeah.
90s. So there's a lot of guys with top sportsman cars that are mini pro mods and top
Right.
dragster cars that are just one step below an alcohol car. And unless you have a good track that'll hold it, they're not going to come anyhow.
Right. And they literally are in both those cases, they are exactly what those were. I mean, there was the top sportsman guys running or what pro mods hoped they could run once.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And I know a lot of them in it. We build transmissions for all of the alcohol. Well, no, I don't say all, but alcohol classes, pro mod, and I just know that there's a lot of those cars they wouldn't hold on just a normal track. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It has to be prepped right, and it has to be safe because of the
right,
speeds that they're going.
right. Yeah, it's not like back in the days when you'd take even a nostalgia match race nitro funny car down any number of cow paths, from Canada to the Gulf.
Yeah.
It's just not the way it works anymore. But
Yeah, and I mean, even at Bonneville Raceway back then, the last year I saw a big show nitro was John Forrest was 1992, and then they kind of stopped having match races, so that kind of died with it. But
right,
I did licensing out there. Um, I ran a couple of runs in my nitro car before we went down, just I wanted to get the crew accustomed to starting line stuff and all that, and
right.
I could do great burnouts, but it wouldn't hold it.
Wouldn't hold. Oh, man, it's fascinating. And it reminded me of their license before we get off that, because I want to make who were the racers who signed for you that day with that
Oh, dude,
519
don't
turbo
ask me that
injector?
question. I
Sorry.
Oh man, we were talking about it the other day, and I can't find a copy of my original license, and I don't recall who it is. So I apologize to everybody for not being able to have, that is terrible. I
Well, they
mean,
were there at Vegas on a Mopar weekend, though. That's
well, it ended up being, I think Rob Passy might have been one. He was a top fuel guy, but
yeah,
and I don't know. If
yeah,
anybody, if anybody out there knows, man, call me tomorrow and
yeah.
remind me who signed my license. But I
If
did.
you're on the chat, let us know.
Yeah, exactly. Because Kerry Webb, who I think it was it Kerry or was the manager of that facility that went to Indy, I think. And he was there and he signed off on it. But I had two
Cool.
people sign it. I just don't remember.
Got it.
I'm
Cool.
getting old.
Yeah, I hear him. That's me too. That's why I write it all down. I mean,
That's why I have this logo on my chest so I remember where I work.
I got it. Well, it's great. B&J, we've heard about them forever, and I'm glad you got it. It's in good hands.
Yeah, thank
We'll
you.
chat some about John. Is anybody else out there with a thought? You know,
Yes, it's been going on the whole time here. Randy Johnston said San Antonio, there's a track just sitting there. It's a huge market. IHRA, are you looking at it? And I suggested that IHRA to pick up that track. And when you were talking about eighth mile tracks, Rob McCabe said that's exactly true about Top Dragster and Top Sportsman. And let's see, Pete Mariello said, thanks for mentioning the California Independent Funny Car Association by name, Steve.
No, I
you
loved
get
it
a
and I
chance
learned
to.
there. There was some great racers in there, and I they welcomed me and that's where I first drove a funny car. So it holds a place in my heart for sure. And
Right.
it's intimidating when you climb in one of those things for the first time, no matter how slow it is.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, slow is relative. Pete, of course, I don't know if you ever got a chance to race him back in those days, but he was part of that circuit where he had that silver Vega, which was that he
I
built
didn't.
himself.
I was there like 99, 2000, whatever, with the back and black Corvette and
Yeah.
just the good
Oh,
vibrations.
yeah, good vibration. Well, Jim Mayer and
Jim Mayer
yeah,
still in charge. I don't know if he's still in charge of it or maybe his son is now, but Jim was in charge of it.
yeah.
Great
I
group of
see
people.
see those guys at least once a year, if not twice. And so
Yeah.
they're terrific.
Yeah. It was fun I mean, I had a funny car and I was cool.
So is that when Schwab was running in that circuit and he sold
No, he was in there before. So the car that I bought, he had a car that he raced match races here in Utah at the old Bonneville.
hmm
And then we built the new car. I was part of the team when we built the new car that he ran with the Caterpillar body on it. But yeah, I don't know if that car that he had was the originally the Sifka. I think he had one before that, but that was the car that he ran the match races in. He used to race.
Well,
Keith Jackson would come over and they would do
yeah,
match races in Salt Lake.
great family. Lots of everybody's good in drag. Everybody's cool.
Yeah, except
John,
for the person that beat you that last
that's what
round.
that jerk.
Yeah.
John, we'll check back in with John here in a moment. If I know there's we could our fantastic chat bleachers as we call. That's what we learned that word from Dina Parisi the other day, the pro mod world
Yeah.
champ from
There you
back in the
go.
day. But so tell us about what's happening this year. You're out there racing, and I know Rob came put in an update on one of your entries for the alcohol card just before we came on, with a solid 360 that I saw, which is about as fast as anybody needs to go in those things.
You
Tell us
know,
how the year's going.
well, I'll back up just a little bit if you don't mind. I mean,
Mhm.
we started out running quarter mile, and so and my point of this whole story is we just have been trying to get a little better every time we go out. When we
Mhm.
bought the car in 2015, you could run a 70, a 570 or a 580 and be
Yeah,
okay. By
yeah,
the time we got it actually built into the track, if you weren't running 50s and 60s, you were behind the times or even
yeah,
faster. And so we were a 10th, 1500ths behind every time we raced. And but we were racing people like uh, the Gordons
Yeah.
and Annie Whiteley with the Strasburgs behind
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. But so we raced there for a couple of years, and then we went to race 8 mile stuff with the Midwest Drag Racing Series, and we had a great time. I mean, Jim Whiteley is the person that put that together money wise and stuff and everything. We wanted to support Jim, and he invited us out to one in October, and we went out and stayed for 3 years, and we went 350, I believe 358. We went in Martin, yeah, 358 with a one. My son sent me the times. So 358 with a one, 211 in the 8 mile.
Yeah.
And our best pass ever in the quarter mile was our 551 that we ran against Bellemere. He couldn't get down the guy. I got to tell you this. He couldn't get, well, he kind of got down the track, but barely got down the track in qualifying and all that stuff. And then comes out and runs 100th off the national record just when he has to be, and then
Yeah.
knocks the tires off the next round. So Sean, yeah, yeah, it's terrible. But anyhow, so we're just trying to get better and better and better and better. And so we fostered and or went into the 8 mile to try to get our early times better. We knew that on the back end, it'd be hard for us to run with a lot of the teams because we don't lean it out quite as well. We don't whatever. And honestly, I'm just not smart enough. But when we went to the 8 mile, we did okay, but we brought on a gentleman by the name of Jeff Pierce with Jeff Pierce Tuning. Incredible human being to begin with, and one of the smartest people I've ever met. He can walk in, look at stuff, and help you, and that's what's brought our ETs down to where they are. And we're
That's
hoping to
great.
do even better in Vegas in a couple of weeks.
That's
So
fantastic.
yeah, so
The five,
it's
go
been
ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just you mentioned the 551. I was going to say this before you mentioned that 551 was your best, but I we track all the pros and semi-pros, of course, and the low ET and the records and the way we rank them. I rank racers across the eras by picking the average ET for a class for a year and comparing
Uh,
that to the record. And so
okay.
average is a 50 rating, record is 100, and wherever you fall between that and then below that as well. Well, believe it or not, well, yeah, I'm sure you believe it because but the middle guy, and you might be maybe it's you right now in top alcohol funny car. It goes from a 535 with a two to a 551, I think, with a five, and that's legitimately half the guys or gals, of course, that are in that category, the middle one of the pack, not the average, the middle one counting down. If there's 100 of them, number
Wow.
50 is a 551. And that's just how do you, it's just drag racing. Every single year they get quicker and quicker and quicker. But, Top Alcohol Funny Car for, God, 2 decades now. They were running 550s 2 decades ago, and the very, very top guys, right? I guess, I don't know if it's rule change, and maybe you know this. Is it rule changes or what's keeping them, right in that band? They're not getting quicker. Although, the 30s with Bellamy and others, and those folks are definitely in the 30s. And in Australia, I think they run slightly different rules, but they're in the 30s as well. They're top guys. But
Yeah.
you're not going to say you're not going down. And even let's see, Megan Meyer a couple years ago when the '08 or '09 with a day fuel car, and now everybody's in the teens, and it's like bracket racing 5 teen cars in top alcohol. It's just ridiculous how tight everything is.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, you look at different cars, like you look at Annie Whiteley's car, she had the speed record forever until the
Right,
A-Fuel of Boggs came out.
right.
And that's just Strasbourg knowledge, in my mind. I mean, they know how to make things go fast that way, but I think what's kind of I don't want to say stagnated because they're still dipping into going a little faster here and there, but they're doing it more consistently is I think it is a little bit the technology. I mean, the PSI, screw chargers really haven't changed. We're still using
Mhm.
it, a, a, a thing that was designed, I don't know how many years ago.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
late
if you,
'80s.
yeah, you get
I
them
remember when they
coated
changed
and
the sport.
yeah, we run a D rotor. There's a C rotor, but we run the D rotor, and so I think the amount of air that you can get into it, obviously, the Noonan heads, the Brad heads. Everybody kind of has their favorite, what works well, and we run Noonan heads and have been fortunate with it. And I think the difference between say what we're running maybe when we were running before within the 60s and people running 50s, one was a lot of knowledge, two was they had the parts to push it,
Yeah.
and three they had a little bit better parts. But I think a lot of it was just taking the same cookie cutter and making it different, you know what I
Right.
mean, in a sense. And the people that are really good, I mean, you look at Les Davenport with
Yeah.
Stan Simples's car, whole he went 30 something, and I mean, Les is an incredible man in
Yeah.
terms of he can tune a converter car and an alcohol car at the same race, and they race each other in the final. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
but anyhow, I think it's just that the people. I mean, you look at people like the Gordons and Strasburgs and that do the Whiteley, and you just go through that list. It's just an incredible group of people with a lot of knowledge.
Right.
So
Man, it's amazing.
so to answer that is just I think it's the parts and pieces maybe need to change so that they could step up again. But
Yeah.
obviously Boggs has proven that you can do that. You can do
Yeah.
these. So
Yeah, they're tough. They and these guys go back. Everybody goes back to the 70s. They're been doing this and
yeah.
or 80s. We were let's see where we are. 8:42. Let's check back in with John real quick. John, anybody else with a thought?
Yes, let's see. Well, we mentioned IHRA, and Jim Sanders and Rich Panicaro both said the IHRA is great. And I agree. Dale Broderick showed up. He's here with us tonight.
Howdy, Dale.
And Crafty Kate is in Ohio right now, but she's listening in on the show on the chat board.
Howdy,
Jim
howdy.
Sanders said he got lucky with 3 drag strips within 40 miles of St. Louis in the
Mm.
70s.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool. We had one in Houston back then. And Randy Johnston said the California Independent Funny Car Association just ran last Saturday at Famoso. And Rob McCabe said, I know, I got to catch up on the CIFCA stuff as well as in the Draglist database. They just ran this past weekend and it'll be completed at the California Hot Rod Reunion. Uh, we're talking about top alcohol funny cars, and Jim Sanders just posted he'd like to see more injected nitro cars, which that's great, man. I think it's helping to save that class because the numbers were dwindling in top alcohol funny car there for a while, but they I think this last weekend they had 12 cars at
Wow.
Dallas that were racing, and but what you've got is awesome, man. I love that B&J top alcohol funny car. It's a great hot rod.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. And if I may comment on
Please do. Yeah, I was about to ask.
well, okay. I don't have the heritage in the alcohol classes like a lot of people do, so I can't say we've been in it for coming up on 9 years or whatever. And um, my opinion is that it's good to help the sport grow.
Mhm.
The NHRA made some decisions to put or the class grow.
Mm-hmm.
They put in the decision that you could bring nostalgia bodies. Well, nobody's going to do that because they're about as arrow as a 4x8 sheet of plywood.
Right.
And yeah, I mean maybe somebody will. And then the A fuel side is, hey, there you go. Here's another combination. Well, obviously people are going to get a handle on it. You see McSteel runs a pretty decent
Yeah.
number. But then on the other hand, you look at somebody as intelligent in A fuel as Randy Meyer, and he struggled with the car, and didn't run it for a while. But I think that whole A fuel thing, it kind of creates a hard spot for the people that have the blown application. And that is and then again, also back to the A fuel, is it's like what you saw in Dragster when they had the alcohol dragster and they let A fuel in. Now you
Yeah.
have there's somewhat of a division there because you used to be able to watch an alcohol funny car uh, last year or year before last, and every competitor would watch Bellemere go out and run a 36 or 7 or whatever he ran,
Right.
or Annie would go out and go 275 and they'd say, "Holy mac, those guys are good."
Yeah.
Now you watch Bellemere go out with an A fuel car and blow everything out of the water. Oh, those guys got too much percent. So it creates
Yeah,
that division. And I think
right.
it even creates some personal divisions sometimes. And that's
Yeah,
the sad part about it, you know. So my point is to be able to combine things. ProMod experienced the same thing. You know, how many power outers do they have? Oh, this
yeah,
guy needs 25 more pounds. That guy needs
right.
50 pounds. You know, it's just always arguing over the thing. It isn't like, hey, as a class, we're pretty badass. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's as a class, oh, those ProMod guys in the Pro Charge guy, they got or Pro Nitrous or whatever,
Right.
you know. That's the only detriment that I see to it. And I hate to
It
see the class have small fields as it would be.
right. It's been crazy. Of course, there used to be a time when there was more top alcohol funny cars you could throw a stick at. It is very expensive to run them. But this has been a challenge for us just on the lists. Like we've separated A fuel. Even to this day, I separate A fuel and top alcohol. And of course, even in the funny cars. And it just, of course, it's kind of weird because now, so I've got, Bartone and I got Steel in one list, a 28 car and a 33 car. But the 33 car is a 50 rating, right? Because he's
Mm-hmm.
only being rated against Bartone, which is just so foolish. And then, of course, Megan with the '08, and I think somebody went 11. I can't remember who it was, but, an alcohol car. So they're very close. But do they, it takes, I've heard it takes more to tune the alcohol cars to get them to run the same way. But
I
Pro Mod all the way back to the beginning of time, the blowers versus the nitrous. And then you added the turbos that all had the big miles an hour, first 250 cars, and then you got the Pro Gerbs. And I was commiserating with Rob McCabe on this door slammer thing. Danny White back in the day, and Rob tries to track it now, but holy crap, I can't tell. I'm kind of a neophyte. I've been around it, but I mean, to me, and I know there's tons of great door racers, and they love them, and PDRA and all the other places have them, but I'm struggle to get behind one door slammer compared to the next. That's my personal deal. Like if somebody goes to 650, the other guy goes to 660, it's like, well, that's both great. They're both running nitrous, they're both run or whatever. But no, no, it's a completely different combo because this is this class, that's that class. And I'm just trying to figure out how to categorize them all,
oh
I
yeah.
mean, and it's just like, I don't know. I'm almost getting to the point where I'm just like, okay, blown nitro dragster, 1K. That's what, okay. And then separate it out after that. But trying to, can you imagine the guys all these years who've had to try to do those rules and keep those things straight? And I think Bartone and those, I think they actually added weight to the A fuel funnies this year,
Yeah.
didn't they? After
Yeah,
Bartone
I
dropped to
think they did, and
520.
they took some percentage away and stuff like that, you know. And I understand but again, my point of bringing that up was that's where it creates that division,
Yeah,
you know. And I'm glad that there's more cars. I mean, I don't want to see the class die because it's not only a personal thing, it's a business thing.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you go to the Midwest race last week in uh, or a couple whatever it was in a couple of weeks ago in oh, flying H-Ray. And other than the A fuel car there that was there with Moniz driving it, it was an all B&J field. Every other
yeah.
car there had a B&J in it,
There
you
you
know,
go.
and so we like to see that. So if the alcohol class goes away and the alcohol dragsters go away, then we have some in pro mod, but we haven't made big inroads to that. So it's a financial deal for us. So I'm
Right,
I'm the biggest proponent of having the class around. Obviously, we want it to stay blown because then it has a transmission in it.
right, sure.
And they can all have bearings. We have bearings for everybody, but the transmission is only for that. So,
Yeah,
and I see a lot of people I saw a comment, and I on social media because we do a lot of stuff with our business. Somebody saying that the finger flickers and the converter people and the two-step people shouldn't be allowed in top, whatever. And I'm like, hey, whatever you guys want to say, everybody has their opinion, and it's
yeah,
going to be that way. But bottom line is, we just need more cars drag racing in general.
right.
That to keep the sport going. The kid that I hired here, I told you earlier, the kid that I hired here a couple of weeks ago, he goes, just tell me, he said, are all the people that drag race old like you? And I said, well, no, not all of them, but a good portion of them are. And
Yeah,
that's one sad fact too, because not only is it a generational thing, but now we're having classes start to disappear. So
right.
I'll do whatever I can to keep the thing going. It's just, and I'll race against anybody. Sean Bellemere, he kicks my butt in his alcohol car, and he'll probably kick my butt in his A fuel car. There's just people that do that, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
There,
no big deal.
I tell you, yeah. We'll be going to see Bruce Larson. We have our Bruce Larson event this weekend, which we'll chat about here in a moment. But almost every year I go, no matter where I go, it's all of our friends commiserating about how do we get more kids involved in a sport. I know Kay does a lot of great work and others, to try to bring young folks in, but it's we're not that hot rod generation we once were. I mean, even the kids who tune with their iPhones,
Yeah.
they're on the street and they're kind of we need to bring those guys in, right?
It's
And
hard, because I think I watch street racing and I was looking at there's some street racing here in Utah, and I was watching videos that they were posting, and it's lined with people
yeah,
on the curb of the street they're racing. I'm like,
right.
that's a disaster waiting to be happen right
Yeah,
there. But I think they like the allure of the taboo, the street race, whatever,
right.
and they don't want to come to a drag strip because I know when RMR was around, it would have Friday night drags, and people would go there, but then they'd go out and race on the street again.
Yeah,
I don't know where that comes from, but back to it's a family thing too. And I was explaining this to somebody a little bit. My version of it is people come back from World War II, if you remember, and then the hot rods came in, and
sure.
then Detroit decided to follow along. Hey, all these people want fast car, and it just kind of gone, and now it's just going back. The cars
Right.
aren't as cool to drive unless you have you know some high dollar deal or whatever.
Crazy money,
But
yeah.
drag racing a minivan, I just don't know if it's cool enough, for people. So they don't want to
Not that I
do
haven't done it, believe me.
it. Yeah, yeah. I race my Mazda CX-5 against anybody, but I lose most of the time. So
Yeah, well, I've raced my wife's Mazda 323 or whatever it was back in the day, and used to have an Audi and actually made it into the Washington Post racing my Audi one night. So
oh, cool.
Todd Mack, when he owned Budds Creek, he says, go out there and race. And I was announcing one, so he gave me the entry fee, and I took my Audi down. And come to find out, there was one car there slower than me, some dude with an MG. And of
Oh,
course, all
wow.
the guys were trying to position themselves so they can race the slow cars. But I somehow lined up against that guy, and I beat him. Well, I'm reading the Washington Post a couple days later, and holy crap, there's like this guy was a reporter who was doing like a story on taking his car to the strip, and
And you beat him.
yeah, and
You
he
ruined
says
his whole
the
story.
Audi does a short, tasteful wheel spin, and whatever. But
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
got that here somewhere. But yeah, it's I don't know. We're going round and round. John, who else is out there with a thought?
Jim Cummings showed up and he says, "Hi, guys." And he also replied to Steve. He says, "We all do have gray hair."
That's
And
a fast dragster racer right there, Jim. Hey,
And y'all were talking about growing the sport, which everybody agrees with that. And Randy Johnston said there will be more cars when newcomers can afford to run and not scatter parts.
yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's hard, and I mean, you look at the spread in people. I mean, I look at people that run fast in the alcohol ranks, and I know there's some of them that are spending a quarter of a million or better a year, and we might spend 50,000 a year to go. We don't run as
yeah,
many events and things. So it can be done on a budget, but it depends on what your budget is.
right.
Kay asked me earlier today, she says, "Hey, would you like to be in nitro car?" And I said, yeah, I'd love to be in a nitro car, but I can't afford it. I've driven
Right.
one. I've driven a nostalgia car. I mean, to rank them all, the best car in a warm up is a nostalgia car because you've got the can in there. You have
Yeah.
100% nitro, and that thing just sounds like it's going to rip
Stomp on it.
it's going to rip your head off. And then a big show car, they're just cool and they're fast. But I like the alcohol car. It's the most challenging to drive and be good at driving it. And I'm not necessarily even a good driver yet, but to hit the shifts and be on time, I think it's the most difficult of the funny cars to drive overall. And I know people out there that might say, "Oh yeah, this and that, the other thing." That's fine, but it's like a lot of the comments I see online. Those people have never, they're not driving one of these cars.
Right,
They've never driven one of these cars and they're commenting on it. And it's like, why don't you come and join in and then you can talk, intelligently about it.
right.
So,
I've heard that commonplace. I've heard that statement that the top alcohol funny car is the hardest car to drive with the shifting
well,
and everything else.
yeah. And I don't know if it's as hard to drive, but to be good and to be consistent. And
Hmm.
the driver is now a critical part of the combination.
Right,
I
right,
mean, I remember when I drove my fuel car, you go in pre-stage, pull on the fuel, let the clutch out, stage, and stab on the gas. Okay. Now, as long as you keep it in your lane, it's up to the crew chief.
right.
But if you're not leaving at the right RPM or you don't shift at the right RPM, now you're a part of the tune-up. So the driver really isn't a part of the tune-up in a fuel car or a fuel
Right.
car, but they are, but the driver. So I watch people that are good drivers, and again, it's in my opinion, like Annie Whiteley's one of the smoothest drivers I've ever watched. Every one of her cars is just boom, boom, boom down the track.
Yeah.
And Bellemere, he's a lever. You know what I mean? And you look at Mike Gordon and Matty Gordon, and you look at all of the other people that are just great drivers. Phil Les, I mean, he's a
Yeah.
converter car, and he can leave on anybody. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things and that come into it. But bottom line is we need to keep the sport going and we can do whatever we can to do it. And if I need to take people on bobsled rides or something like that, we'll figure out how to do that if they'll come drag racing. So
You can, convince them that way.
yeah.
Tell, speaking of unusual cars, so well, let's talk about if we talk about B&J transmissions, performance bearing to some extent, but I'm really interested in your applications for Boss NOS because those are nitrous kits for UTVs and ATVs, motorcycles, snowmobiles. And so seems like you're kind of carving out a niche there for smaller applications that it may not have had nitrous applied before.
Well, we actually got the idea and the initial part of it. I bought it from someone. So it wasn't
Mhm.
like our brainchild, but
Hmm.
we're trying to improve it and make it better and bring it back. So it's been out. And if anybody knows it, Boss Noss has been out there for snowmobiles, and that's kind of where it came from. And the idea behind it was you regulate the nitrous to a lower pressure so you can have the bottle out in 10-degree weather and you're not, you don't have bottle warmers and all that stuff on it. So we have a regulator that regulates it to 300 pounds. And even at 10 degrees, you can get 300 pounds out of a nitrous bottle. So your nitrous hit is consistent. It's smaller horsepower, but you look at a motorcycle or an ATV or a snowmobile, and when it was designed, it was a big thing because there weren't turbos on snowmobiles. So they have really taken a big place in the market. And the horsepower, obviously, like anything, has grown. But we're hopefully going to have it more available to the public after the first of the year. We're just trying to get all of our inventory up to speed. But yeah, we're trying to. It's definitely a niche market or whatever. But with the ATV world and especially the UTV world, the growth there, it's we feel it's a big market that we can go after. And so we're going to do our best to go out there. Eventually, we may dabble in the cars, but right now we're just, you know, 10 to 60 horsepower on whatever you own.
Wow. That's cool. Tell us a little bit more about UTVs, because I'll bet some folks have never heard of those like me.
Yeah, a UTV is your razors, the two-seater, four-seater, that like Polaris, a razor, or Can-Am has one or whatever, and it's there's a whole bunch of them out there. Honda has them. And they go from what you might see on a ranch kind of deal where it has a little bed on the back to the
Yeah.
sport ones with 30 inches of suspension and a four-seater, and the things are just crazy, and they go anywhere from 15 $20,000. I've seen them at $100,000 for a side by side is kind of the name that people have. And we've
Wow.
done quite a few, and we've done bearings for a lot of them as well. So we do bearings for drag racing. We do bearings for road racing. We have them on salt cars, and we've done them on the ATV, UTV motorsports market as well.
That's amazing. Tell us just a smidge about the difference in the applications for the folks who use your products. I mean, you got your, I don't know if you do stuff for roundy round guys, like you race those asphalt cars, but compare, obviously high hit, high heat, high energy right away for drag cars but what about when you have to last? Is it essentially the same, or do you have to have sort of different products for different folks?
In the transmission world, we are pretty much drag racing, land speed. We have some stuff in monster trucks. Um, we have, we have cars in from comp eliminator to top alcohol, like we talked about. We don't really have a product that would be a what I would call a real street use, and we don't have anything that would work in roundy rounds. Um, so it's more top speed, quick acceleration. I mean, we run out the salt flats and the Strasburgs, they have a Lakester that, has been 379
Mhm.
and has our transmission in it, and it runs like a minute 40. And so that transmission's in there for that long, and it's kind of hard to come up with something that crosses over from that. Like you have a Liberty or you have an M&M Turbo 400 or whatever that you see in a Pro Mod. They probably wouldn't do as well maybe in a land speed car, and they wouldn't
Right.
work well in a roundy round car. And most of the round around cars, they're either just one gear or they have a 4 speed, but they only go into fourth gear and then they're in the same gear. And a sprint
Hmm.
car it has a lock box. Essentially, it's just you lock in the rear end or you lock it out. There's no transmission. So we have two new products that we're developing that will fit more into the top dragster, top sportsman world, even into the super comp. I would call it kind of a Power Glide Turbo 400 replacement. Smaller, lighter trans that'll work with a clutch or work with a converter. So we're working on that. That'll be out sometime next year. We just got through working on it. We're building a boat trans for the drag boats.
Hmm.
So we're trying to build some new products there in B&J. On the bearing side, you can use them in anything.
That's interesting. That's my next question. Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
it's so a ceramic bearing. We build what's called a hybrid bearing, and that is a steel inner and outer race with a ceramic ball. And so 90% of the drag is taken away with a ceramic ball due to the spherical, the concentricity, and the equality and size of all the bearings inside or all the balls inside the bearing. So when we
Mhm.
buy the balls, they're very expensive. The secret is even bigger than the secret for the Coke recipe, on how they make them. But
Right.
they're measured out to 5 or 6 numbers after the decimal point. So
Wow.
all the same size, so they carry the same load and things of that nature. So you go into a go-kart or a roundy round car or even a drag car, um, it's very effective to get more power to the ground. And then
Right.
we can put them on jack shafts and like in a junior dragster. We have bearings that would go into even into a water treatment plant or into a windmill. Or, for example, we did testing with a Tesla and got 15% greater range on
Wow.
a Tesla than that. So that's something we're working on. We've, done work in the semi world with how many miles per gallon we can pick up. And you look at the dollar value of that is huge. So that's
Huge.
a lot of things that we're working on there. A lot of people believe it's black magic and it's just smoke and mirrors, but it's real. I mean, I put bearings in a go-kart, spun the stock one, and they come with good bearings to begin with, and it was like 6 minutes. I spun the one after the thing, and it's hard to get the same spin, but it went for over 20 minutes. So,
Holy crap.
and there's videos of customers that I've sent bearings and they've spun their wheel and that's probably the biggest thing. And so our biggest, I guess, job is to educate people about
Right.
the benefits of ceramic bearings for them and hopefully convince them to do it.
It's amazing. Got to take it back to science class and learn about inertia. And it sounds like there's no friction stopping them with your bearings. You just keep on rocking.
Yeah, and you don't have to put as much grease in them, because grease in a bearing, everybody thinks that makes it go faster. It doesn't. It's like driving in the slush.
Right.
If you've got grease in there, that ball's having to roll through that grease and it's slowing it down. It's better long term because it keeps it lubricated, but for speed, it isn't.
That's fascinating. Oh my gosh. We could talk all night about tech.
Yeah.
Um, and let's check with John one more time. And anybody else with another question or a comment for Steve?
Man, we got it going on the chat board tonight. Crafty Kate said, she said, when I was young, we'd go to Riverside and run our daily drivers.
Hmm.
And Rob said, you have to throw in the occasional disclaimer with the at settings today for some reason. And he also said, I know Steve is on the entry list for Las Vegas, and hopefully he'll be at Tulsa next weekend for the MWDRS.
No,
Midwest Drag Racing Series. What do you think, Steve?
no, we won't be there. Our next race is Vegas. We are on the entry list. The car's just behind me, all in one piece. So yes, we will be there.
Yeah,
So
let's keep it that way. Well,
yeah, no, I mean it's funny when you don't have a lot. I mean, we have one block, one crank, I mean, and so if we hurt something, that determines whether we're going to the next race or not.
right.
And
That's true.
so we're always looking to get a little bit more, but no, we won't be at the Midwest. We ran the first two races of that series and then decided to not run the last two. So we wish the best to everybody there. A lot of our customers are there. A lot of great people racing that series. And again, Jim Whiteley's behind it, and I think a
Yeah,
lot of Jim as well. So it's something that we can say that we enjoyed it while we did it, but we're going to try to go back to the quarter mile and maybe a little bit lighter schedule for next year.
gotcha. Cool. And
Now,
John?
Jim Cummings made an interesting post. He said, my car originally had a 361 injected Hemi with a B&J 3-speed. He
Yeah,
said Paul Smith out of the Dallas area. And then he also said Ed Mabry.
Yeah. At Mabry Chassis.
And
Yes, sir.
he said, I still have the clutch pedal for it if I want to use it.
no, going back on that, B&J started in the late 60s, and I think they got their first letter approval from the NHRA in 1970. I saw a copy of it.
Oh,
And so that was Bob Batten, who started B&J, had it in California up through 2000. And Mike Strasberg brought it here to Utah and then we took it over 2.5 years ago. So, like I said, we were fortunate to get a good product. We're just trying to make it better and actually not screw it up. So it's kind of one of those deals is have inventory on the shelf and we've picked up a lot of customers over the years, just from the name, and
yeah.
it just we weren't what I call Lenko the Kleenex of there because Kleenex is a brand of facial tissue and
Yeah.
Lenko got out there and their name
Right.
is out there and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with them, but we're trying to take the rest of the business.
Yeah. That's
So
true. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying.
yeah.
Like Jello. That's what it's not gelatin,
Yeah,
it's Jello.
yeah, Jello, yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of things that are that way, and so that's been a little bit of an uphill battle. But I think we're trying to give the customer service as good as we can and have parts on the shelf when people need them.
Sounds good. John, any other final thoughts from folks?
Every single person has said what a great show this is tonight. Thank you, Steve.
Well, thank you very much. I came on here, I wasn't sure what to say. I felt like I had a little bit of a story with all the different things that we've done, and I'm just honored to be here and be a part of the drag listing. I look at some of the names that are on your list, and I can't remember where I fell in on the speed thing because 504 at 301 is my fastest quarter mile, quickest and fastest.
504 301.
I
Well, we'll
can't
find you.
remember where it fell. But and I think back to the people. And one more quick story I'll tell you
Yeah,
was,
sure.
if you don't mind. I mean, I don't want to drag it
No,
out.
no, we're a
I'll,
matter of fact, I had a couple. I was just giving the folks in chat one more chance. I had a couple more things to ask you myself. So
no, if you know anybody that knows me, I talk way too much. So, but I was at I drove Jack Harris's Nitro Thunder car, the nostalgia funny car for a while. And we were up in Idaho racing. It was one of my first races, driving it. And, Leah Pruitt, Leduc, Stewart, whatever was there, and she didn't know me from Adam. Nobody knew me who I was. So we sat down in an autograph session, and I sat down next to her, and I said, "Hey, I'm Steve, or whatever. Nice to meet you." And we were supposed to run, I think, first round or in qualifying or something. She says, "So how long have you been driving funny car?" I said, "I've never driven one. This is my first time." And the look on her face, and she told me later on about it. But anyhow, that was one thing there. But that was what there was that night. And that same night, Mike Savage was driving the Candies and Hughes car.
Hmm.
He crossed the center line and came into my lane, and I had to move right to get out of the way. And I remember the header flames because they didn't run windows in the nostalgia car. It was
Right.
in window. We got down to the end. He came around the corner and his motor was just screaming. The fuel shut off had broke off. It was way
Oh
up.
man.
And so I lifted up the body and I tried to get one of the security guys or safety guys to come over, and they're looking at it like, no, 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 I ain't going there because it was just like wide open nitro car at
Right.
night, you know. And so I finally got somebody to hold the body, and I went down there. I was still in my helmet, had my gloves on and everything, and I'm thinking I'm not going to reach in there where that belt is and shut off the fuel. So I
Yeah.
looked down and there's the coil wire. So I just ripped the coil wire out and I fell back on the ground and laid there. Just as my kids came around the corner in the tow truck, they thought I was dead, you know.
Oh no.
So yeah, we went to the final round, and that was and lost to Bucky Austin, and that was my first race in a nostalgia car. So
Wow.
I can mention the nostalgia because they definitely have a soft spot in my heart.
They do love them. Leah was she in the Dickies Mustang at the time? The
It was I can't it was no it was the Pluger Geiger car.
oh, Bluger and Geiger,
Yeah,
yeah.
she was playing driving the Pluger Geiger car. So
Yeah.
hey, one quick note: the body that I bought from the Worshams, it was
Uh-huh.
Phil Burkhart that blew up the tire.
Burkhardt, Phil
Yeah,
Burkhardt from New
yeah, yeah.
York.
I'm sorry, Phil, if
I
you're ever
had it in
doing
my
this.
well, look who should have known that because actually seen Phil race many times.
Oh,
Not in that car, but racing nostalgia,
yeah,
and other good things.
he's an
Good guy.
incredibly good person, great
Yeah,
guy. So
yeah. He's here. I saw him at Capitol Raceway. Gosh, it's over 10 years ago now, maybe just around 10 years ago. We had a cool little nostalgia meet and he was up there. Um, so hello, Phil, if you're watching or seeing it on the recording.
yeah, no, hopefully he'll
But
see it down the road or whatever. But and I can tell you
yeah,
one more thing. And
go
then
for it.
Chris, actually, I got to run my monster truck down, well, 8th mile only at Topeka.
Oh
And
yeah?
yeah, so we pull up to the water box and the guy sprays like he normally would, and we're four-wheel drive. So I'm thinking, I don't even know. And we put these special tires on it that were from a vehicle that ran up in Alaska on the snow, and they look like they're 66-inch, um, look like sprint car tires. And
Wow.
spraying water there, and I'm up in the cab with my hand, and I'm going, no more, bigger, bigger, bigger.
Yeah.
So he puts a bigger area, and I pulled up and stepped on the gate, and it went, ooh, and that was about it. So we blow up. So I think I went almost 90 miles an hour in the eighth in a monster.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool. So that was a back to drag, and then um, I drove a car there, another nitro car. I forgot about that that a guy owned, and I can't remember his name, but it was when James Day was trying to get his license in a nitro funny car and had it. Hadn't made it. They flew
Right.
him to drive at one there. So the couple of stories about Topeka, who's no longer with us. So
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. We were just talking to someone from Topeka, well, near Topeka last week. The guy was just lived just west of there, but
yeah, that was a
yeah,
nice
it's too
facility.
bad. Yeah, it's crazy how they come and go.
Yeah. So go ahead with your questions. I interrupted you.
Well, let's see. Well, I was sort of wanted to ask you, we chatted, you've already given some shout outs tonight, but is anybody that you wanted to holler at, some sponsors or other folks who helped you out as you go day to day?
You know, I mean, as I think about it, it's all the people that are in my life, and that's what the memories we have. Because a lot of times you go to the racetrack, and I remember when we ran our nitro car, it wasn't like, what did we run there? I don't know, but you remember when so and so did
Yeah,
this or so and so did that,
right,
and that's the kind of memories that you have and that you carry with it. And I build those with my kids, and so
right.
I look back over my life, and my friend John that introduced me to the racing, and when I got into uh, uh, monster trucks. It was the Hall brothers out of uh, Champaign, Illinois. They run the
Mhm.
Raminator and Ramunition. They had the Executioner truck back then, and my friend Red that got me into asphalt racing, and the Strasburgs have been there for 25 years, and,
Yeah.
and, and I wouldn't be anything without them. That's for sure. Jeff and Mike, and actually the whole family. Um, you know, I Jerry Osler. great friend of mine. He's been with me since we met when we were working on Schwab's team. We always got in trouble for conspiring to ruin his team, but we didn't, and we became really good friends. And he's great. His wife Bridget comes to our races and helps us a lot. And I race with my sons, and
Mhm.
my sons are my biggest thing in the world. I now have a little granddaughter that kind of gets right up in there with them.
Congrats. Yeah.
Yeah, she's going to be 2, and Lola, I hope she's well, she's probably in bed, but no, but those are the people. But again, my kids are my 2 boys, my 2 sons are my life, and without them, I my life wouldn't be fulfilled. So I have to thank them as well. And sponsorship wise, we have CP Carrillo, we have our great friend Brett Winberg, and Jim Leclerc at Clean Boost. I mean, I just saw Brett today, picked up some oil from him. So if you ever need any oil, call Brett. And the businesses I own, obviously B&J Performance Bearing and Boss
Yeah.
Nos, and I want to thank people like yourselves that allow us to have an audience like that. I mean, nobody. If I put a YouTube video out, I think 2 people watched it, and that was my kids. So this will be the biggest thing. I was going to try to beat Chico at Moon, though. I got to see
Yeah.
how many downloads we
Yeah,
get.
he's doing
Like
well.
two,
Here's doing yeah.
236
Yeah.
downloads by Chico. So, and Chico runs our transmission out at the Salt Flats.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
I
Yeah.
told everybody, even if you don't want to watch it, log in because I got to beat Chico. So
Yeah, yeah, please do that. Yeah, we want that. We want more.
yeah,
The funny thing is here at Drag, we've been on several platforms and we were on Facebook for a while. That's why it's called Draglist Live. We've converted from racing and rocking with Draglist to Draglist Live because it was done on Facebook Live. Well, this last year they decided they weren't going to host videos anymore. So
yeah.
we downloaded them all, but I got to upload them all here, which I haven't done, but we've done them since 2010. Oh my gosh, the names. You're joining the Greek and you're joining Garlits 3 times
Oh
and lots
yeah,
of other great names.
yeah.
So
And
well,
I don't know whether I'll ever be considered a great name. I just, the people that we do touch, our team, our businesses, we just want to make sure that we leave them with a good feeling,
heck
because
yeah,
people won't remember a lot about what you did or what you whatever, but it's how you made them feel and that sort of thing. I think that's the most important thing.
exactly right. And Steve, let me ask you one final question. How can folks find you on the internet or elsewhere? How do folks follow along with Steve Macklin?
Well, I appreciate that. And if I didn't have my oldest son, Mark, I wouldn't be able to tell you that, but he got like he does a lot of our social media. But I mean, we have Macklin Racing, which is just at Macklin Racing. That's on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. B&J Transmissions is at BJ Transmission or B&J Racing Transmissions.
Hmm.
Um, and then Performance Bearing is Performance Bearing One on all the social media, Instagram, Facebook. Boss Nos is on there as well as Boss Nos USA. So I mean, if people would follow us and see what we're doing, and you see anything you like, that would be great. Or you have any ideas for us to be better, give me a call. The shop phone goes to my cell phone. I answer calls. I get calls from Australia and New Zealand and London. We have customers all over the world, all hours of the night. So
That's
we'd love to
awesome.
hear about it. And if anybody wants to talk, the one gentleman wants to talk. Bobsled or
Back.
whatever, yeah, reach out to me. We'll talk bobsled and show you pictures. Actually, I got to show you one thing. I'll,
Yeah.
this, this, and I don't know if you can see it, but that's a picture of me in the
Yeah.
bobsled with my brother. And I spent months convincing him to go for a ride. And in turn 13, I turned it upside down.
Oh no.
Oh, he, I don't, he talks to me a little bit, but he hated me forever.
It's
so,
got,
so
it's
anyhow,
like when Jay Leno took a ride with the
oh,
wheel stand.
in that, yeah, that the
Hemi
hearse
under
car.
glass.
Oh God, I saw
Took
that, and I'm like, holy shit. I only turned it over twice. Once with my brakeman and once with my brother. And going back to the bobsled thing real quick, people don't realize what that's like because most people have never even seen a bobsled track, or whatever. And it's 15 turns, 400 feet of elevation
Yeah.
change. and you're going 60 mile an hour at the end. And in a lot of the turns, you're getting 6 Gs.
Wow.
So when you're upside down, now if you weigh 200 pounds, now you weigh 1,200 pounds sliding
Wow.
on the ice. And if
Wow.
you've ever fallen on the ice and scraped your palm,
Yeah.
you can imagine that at 60 miles an hour, you know? So
Unbelievable.
it's a crazy sport. There's no propulsion other than gravity, you
But
know?
how much steering is there? Because I mean, if you just let it go and hands off, I mean, you're a dead man, right? What's that? Tell me about that.
Sometimes when I drove, it was like I wasn't holding on to the thing, you know, it was great. But no, a bobsled is there really, you look at the turn, it's just a straightaway on its side and it's
Okay.
curved.
Yeah.
So as you go into the turn, there's about a 3 foot section of the track where you can change direction. And all you're doing is, you've got two D rings that are hooked to with ropes to
Oh,
the
is that
front.
what those are?
Yeah. So
Wow.
so we used to
No
hang on.
control. That's like,
Yeah, it's basically a D ring with a rope to the front end, and it it,
wow.
it articulate the sled articulates this way, and it turns, and you have about a 3 foot where when you hit that turn, you get pressure there, so that you can make a change in direction, and it's just this and back to straight. Now you're
Yeah.
on the side and you're going straight, and then when you get to the end, it's a quick off. And they
Wow.
designed the track so that if you get the turn right, you'll go straight down the next straightaway to the next turn. So
Right.
if you watch those sleds come off of, you see them in the thing, if they're doing this, they went in late or went in early. And if you're just tenth of a second or half of a tenth of a second late, you'll go too high. And then if you're late coming off, so if you see them come off and hit the sidewall, they were either
Yeah.
off the turn early or off late, and then it'll turn sideways. So it's all right there. And you do have brakes, but they frown upon you putting the brakes on because all it is a piece
Tear
of
up the
steel
ice.
dragging on the ice, tearing the ice up. And
Yeah.
so it's quite a deal, and we started by learning from turn 10. There had a little in there, and they'd just push you off and you'd go down and then you go up to the top. And like I said, I was the first driver, from Utah to ever go off. We took the governor down. Uh,
Wow.
I was in the first sled to go down the track. I was up there from before the track was even built, being
Wow.
part of it. We put ice on it and stuff. Had the first sled in Utah, bought one out of the 88 games from Calgary, Canada. So yeah, I mean, bobsled is an unknown thing to a lot of people. Stephen Holcomb, if anybody knows anything about bobsled, Stephen Holcomb, who was one of the more recent gold medalists for the U.S., we trained him when he was just a little kid. I didn't really
Wow.
train him,
Cool.
but we got him his start in there up at Park City. So
That is so cool. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I could talk all about that all night.
yeah,
That's great.
okay. I
Well,
don't, I'm keeping you up.
let's holler at John for a minute. John, any final thoughts from you or the gang, my friend?
Everybody is okay. Kay Thurkelson is with us, and she said Steve rocks. And there's something about the monster trucks y'all were talking about, but Jim Sanders said two local car thieves started the monster truck deal, and
Okay.
and, and they was talking about Bigfoot. He said that
Yep,
that was the first one,
Bob Chandler.
and let's see. No, we're caught up
Okay.
actually. Everybody is just uh, thrilled to have you with us tonight, Steve.
Yeah.
You're just giving us a terrific interview.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, I'm happy. I'm happy that everybody is smiling or whatever. And
Yeah.
hopefully, people are at the track. Come by and say hi. Like I said, if
Yeah. So
you're
Las Vegas
come
in a
and see
couple of
us.
weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Come and see us, and hopefully we'll perform well enough that you'll come back and talk to us after the race. So
Heck yeah. Yeah, definitely love to check back in and we'll have Miss Kate set that up. She takes great care of us.
no, I'd
Yes,
happy to be on anytime.
in fact, we have the biggest crowd tonight that we've ever had.
Wow, there you go. Woohoo.
Wow, that is cool. I'm
Yeah.
happy,
All right, I
happy to
love
see
it.
that. No,
That's
I appreciate
fantastic.
everybody. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
we're growing on YouTube, and so we're glad to be here. Well, Steve Macklin, thanks so much, my friend. It was a fabulous and fascinating conversation. So much fun. And by the way, we did like 30 minutes before you guys even checked in. I mean, Steve and I have
Yeah,
been talking since about, you know, what time?
5:30. Yeah,
7:30
my
my time,
time.
5:30 your time.
Yeah, two
Anyway,
hours. I told you
that's
I talk
awesome.
a lot, man. I told you. That's why
That-
people avoid me sometimes. They'll never get away. All
That's
right.
why we're here, man.
Thank you.
Steve Macklin, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Go out there and
everybody.
kick ass in 2 weeks. Talk to you down the road. Bye
All
bye.
right. Have a great night. Thank
You
you.
too. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Macklin. And we'll say farewell to Steve. And let's turn it over to JB for this week's Racer of the Week and JB's take. John, take it away.
Thanks, Bill. My pick for Racer of the Week is Willie Good from Downingtown, Pennsylvania. It's truly an honor to feature him tonight. Willie sent his information to me, and it is an amazing story. I'm going to read it word for word in first person from him tonight. So kick back and enjoy the ride. He said, "My name is Earl Metzler. I go as Willie Good on Facebook to stay in touch with my car friends. I coach gymnastics for a living with my wife at Metzler's Gymnastics in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. I got the car bug hanging out with my older brother, Tom. I remember going to Cecil County Dragway in the late 60s in his 55 Ford with a 327 dual quad 4-speed midnight blue hot rod he bought out of Hank's Speed in Berwyn, Pennsylvania. For the next couple of years, as his little brother, I attended a lot of street races in Tom's 56 Ford, 57 Chevy, and after his return from Vietnam, his Boss 302 brand new. Hot rods were in my blood after that. My first car was a 64 GTO 4-speed Trips. I did a little street racing and learned all the basics on that car, the headers, rear gears, cams, slicks, the old manual header kickouts, etc. One night hanging at the hot shops, a guy rolled in from New Jersey with a 30 Model A with slicks, dual quads, headers outside the chassis, chrome front end, and he went through 5 of us. I learned that night that weight to power was where it was at. So I tried a short stint with a motorcycle and decided that was a good way to kill myself. So I traded it for a 1934 Ford 5-window that sat under a woodpile in a barn, sight unseen. This was 1976, and after graduating from college, the build was on. I still have the 34 to this day, and that car was street raced very successfully, then street rodded, and I did some nostalgia street rod races, which were popular at the time. I did the street rod thing and then bought the 70 GMC hauler off a friend. I converted that to a 1937 that I still have in the 80s. I did that because at the time the 34 had a tunnel ram 2 at 75 mechanical double pumpers, a 4-speed, and 513 gears. I needed something to haul the 34 to shows further away and the drag strips. Next was a blower for the 34, and that changed everything. I went to a straight axle, a 2-speed glide with a trans brake after going through a couple of Ford top loaders. Then came the family, the business, and life of 9 to 5. One day at Thanksgiving, talking how badass we were, my brother and me, my son pops up with, "You guys don't know anything. I got the fastest car in the family." Well, that did it. He beat Tom's 55 Chevy, and it was game on. Full cage, all the safety equipment back in the car that I had taken out to be a street rodder, and we put the car in the 10 flats. I then decided, as the kids were now grown, to go gasser racing, which is what I grew up on. Had a straight axle, etc. But all the racing organizations, nostalgic, didn't like the too nice paint, chrome engine, trans brake, etc. BS to keep me out. So I built a 40 Willis pickup with a 502 cubic inch turbo 400, 3500 stall, 430 rear gears, primered with flames. Then I built a 40 Ford pickup I sold it to get my youngest daughter married for the wedding costs. A 54 COE I bought out of Virginia to haul my brother's 55 to some bigger shows with me. Before we could get the 54 done, Vietnam finally caught up with Tom and he died. He left me his 55, which we redid with a 454 and a 150 shot of nitrous. It'll run 11s on the motor and mid-10s with the juice. Next was to finish a project I had bought for my son, a 1970 Opel GT. He lost interest, so I put a 331 Hemi in it with a Jeffco transmission, narrowed rear, with 22.5 by 33 X15s, 33 by 15s under the body. I added old Hillborn injection converted to EFI. The car took many years to get done, and it is the nicest in the fleet. I will never race this one. It's for street only. Since then, I finished a 48 Anglia with a 427 blown engine, another 40 Ford pickup, and now I'm building a 51 Merc. And that 51 Merc is awesome. It's up here, and he put Packard taillights on this thing, and it's a beautiful job. For a guy who dreamed of having a hot rod and waiting until the family had grown, starting a business, and waiting for years to get the cars of my dreams, I now have 9 cars and trucks. I love life, and I am grateful for every memory. Earl Metzler, this is an outstanding story. Your hot rods are world class. We wish you good luck, safe racing, and the best of times in the future. Everybody stay safe and well. You are the most important part of the show, and we love you all. It's a great way to spend an hour together on a Monday night, and we'll see you all next time. God bless America. Back to you, Bill.
Thank you, John. And man, good stuff. A really, really great write up there. And thanks for everything tonight. As we do an extended show because we had so much fun talking to Steve. Let's talk about some new guests coming up, though. Very excited about this. Thanks to Miss K and Mr. Pete. We got some great guests coming up. We have packed the house over the next couple of weeks. So watch closely, listen closely. We'll catch a couple here tonight. So first of all, next Monday night, it's Kai Michelson, the Rocket Man, returns to talk to us after several years. The man who tuned and built some of the fastest race cars on the planet using rocket propulsion, plus all other cool things. Kai Michelson checking in next Monday night. On the 27th, Christine Foster from Foster Racing, Top Alcohol Funny Car team. Looking forward to talking to Christine. On November 3rd, Andy Morocco from the Street Legal Drags in California will be joining us. Very excited to talk to Andy about that deal. On the 10th, Paul Conlon from Boston Monkey Racing with his Top Alcohol Camaro. I met Paul. He was racing a Fiat at the first Funny Car reunion way back in 2002. Great guy. Paul Conlon coming up November 10th. On November 17th, Stephen McLean, the Mill Road Boys, the Chevy powered nostalgia top fuel car out of Delaware. On the 24th of November, Robert West, also known as Radio Bob. Radio Bob's going to come on and share about his internet racing and music show. Actually, the whole channel, the whole studio, and the entire channel. He fills the day with cool stuff, including replays of our show. So, really excited to talk to Robert West, also known as Radio Bob. Now, folks, thanks to Kay, a couple of names here for December 1st. We're going to talk to newly crowned Factory X champion Lenny Lottig. And that is fantastic. I think Lenny's out of PA. An interesting side note, which I hope to talk to him about. One of my contemporaries here in the IT space in Washington, D.C., is a family member. And he asked me one day, hey, do you know this guy named Lenny Lottig? I'm like, dude, of course. And he says, well, I was partying in his garage last weekend. So Lenny Lottig will be joining us, the great Factory X champ, and congrats to him on that. On December 8th, Jason Harris, the 4-time PDRA champion. And Jason having a fantastic year in the PDRA again. Jason Harris will join us on December 8th if you like fast door cars. Nobody's slotted for December 15th right now. We're going to get someone in that slot. On December 22nd, we're not going to have a show. That'll be Christmas week. And it's also Miss Emily's birthday. My daughter will be traveling home from Chi-Town. And so we're going to be enjoying the holidays, and I hope you do as well. But on the 29th, just before a New Year's celebration, we're going to have Teddy J. Say, the Say It Loud Motorsports race car. And you've seen his car just this last weekend because he owns that funny car that Billy Meyer did the big burnout at the Texas Motor Flux in. So Teddy Say is coming in to join us on December 29th, and we're awful close to filling out the remainder of 2025. Kay Turkelson working hard on January. So thanks so much to Kay. Thanks so much to Pete Moriello for getting us some awesome guests this year as well. Let's go on to, let's see, did we talk about this weekend? I did not yet. USA One Drag Fest coming up at Bruce Larson's Stony Creek Barn in Delphine, Pennsylvania, right there near the state capital of Harrisburg. That is on the 18th, this Saturday. Be there or be square. A whole bunch of your hot rod and drag racing pals will be there. I will be there along with Mr. Jack Red. Jack approving everything we touch as we roll up the road. Typically, some pretty bartenders and waitresses and all kinds of folks at the event. So, once again, Bruce Larson extends his personal greetings through Draglist because that's where we post the flyer, and you can find it up on the front page. The 2025 USA One Drag Fest at Bruce Larson's house this Saturday. So please join us there. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've done that thing. I can't remember how many years. It's been like, gosh, 20 years. I don't know which one. Maybe this is the 26th. Someone can look at the poster on the front page and drop John a note. Maybe before we get off the thing, I'll tell you which version it is. But I've been there. I can tell you what, we're been on it since John Paris was driving the bus. John used to own a transportation company. He was driving a bus and we were riding up there, and Malcolm Durham was on the bus. We were all riding one of those commuter buses up to the first one. It was a blast. And how cool was I digging that? Some little nobody hanging with some of the great racers on the East Coast as we did the first one. But we're doing it once again. The USA One Drag Fest this Saturday. And front page of Draglist, check out the flyer. So let's go into those we lost. Three names to mention today. One very close to us, but start with Andy Naring. We missed Andy last weekend. We're just right on the cusp. What's today? The 13th. Andy is a hardworking crew member and crew chief to a lot of well-known fuel teams, including Sharon and Paul Smith and others down from the Florida area. So farewell to Andy. On the 4th, Charles Count Maravich passed away. He's from Alquippa, Pennsylvania. He raced a 62 Chevy Impala, a 67 Camaro, longtime NHRA national record holder. And Charles Count Maravich was 85 years old, so farewell, sir. And then just got this word today from Jagger Naves and also from my buddy Roger, um, that our great friend Jim Dickey has passed away. Jim raced with us in the 2002 to 2003 and 4 era with our classic Thunder circuit that we put on down in the Carolinas. Myself and my friend Bob and others. And Jim Dickey had a blown altered called My Favorite Charity, and it was a badass car. And he was one of the greatest, most fun guys. But we've known Jim for 20 years now. We're more like 22, 23, 24, as we had a lot of fun doing those initial years of nostalgia drag racing. But farewell to Jim Dickey, and a real good guy. Lots of love from Matt Stambaugh and others. Remember when Jim Dickey was running, Matt was just helping his dad. So Rick Stambaugh was driving in the circuit back there in the 2002, 2003 area. But once again, farewell to our friend, Jim Dickey. And our condolence, of course, to the family and friends of all these great racers. And thanks for the thrills over the years, guys. Really appreciate it. And to with that, we're getting close to a wrap. John, any final thoughts from you, sir? Whoops, you're still on mute, sir.
Yeah.
There you are.
I had a question. You were talking about upcoming guests, and you
Uh-huh.
mentioned somebody named Jason, and I was wondering what's the date for that?
Jason Harris, December 8th.
December 8th.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
four-time PDRA champion. I just saw a great photo of Jason. I think it was one of our David Oakes photos from the PDR race. So
Okay.
our buddy David always taking care of us. We were about to thank him because of all the cool things he does. But John, any final thoughts on the show?
Well, it was just wonderful having Steve Macklin with us tonight. He's just such a great conversationalist, and he gave us so much stories and information that everybody enjoyed him just tremendously. He's a great guy, and I wish him the best coming up in Las Vegas.
Yeah, he's awesome. Good luck to him, and he's flying. Let's see what he does back in the quarter because he's been flying in the eight. The 550s are nothing to sneeze at. Almost in the 40s. I don't know. It depends on how cold it is. Maybe we hit those 540s, but good luck to Steve. And we do
Yeah,
want to thank Steve for coming on. Thank you, John. He was great, just terrific. And John Bachman, of course, thank you, my brother. Appreciate you. Kay Turkelson, Pete Moriello, Rob McCabe working hard and attending in the background tonight. David Oakes, some great new David Oakes photos up on the front page of Draglist. So check them out as David does a photo review from the PDRA. Thanks to Mel Bashore for the drag list updates. Ron Toombs as well. Ron and I were looking into a kind of a mystery on a top fuel racer from the late 50s, early 60s, or mid 60s. That we were looking for multiple spellings of this gentleman's name, but we finally found him, Mr. Stoffels, Stoffels, and he is going to be updating those things. So thank you, Ron. We appreciate how hard you work, all of you. Thanks to John Mernon II as well. Sorry about your mom, John. He was taking care of her, but he's back to putting photos up. And Jeff Gilder, who got us started, Mr. Racers Reunion Radio and Wingding Media. He's awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks in heaven to Danny White, the big guy. And we'll never forget you, brother. Click the like, click the share the show with your friends, even if you're watching a recording. Click the little Draglist logo right down there. Let me see if I get a point to it directly. The beautiful black, white, and red logo. That's is going to let you subscribe to this channel, and I wish you would. Um, and let's talk a little bit more about check in on draglist.com every day to see what's new, including those great photos from Dave Oakes and others. Find us on the Radio Bob Network. We'll be talking to Bob in a couple weeks as Radio Bob showcases our shows. And finally, let me implore you to see you on the 20th. Join us on the 20th next Monday night for Kai Michelson as the Rocket Man returns. So, folks, a little bit of an extended show tonight. Having a great time. Well worth it with Steve Macklin. And let me wish you a very, very awesome week. And we'll see you next Monday night for Kai Michelson. Until then, adios.